Welcome to Teaching English in the Primary Grade, Language Art. This is the Group 2. A pleasant afternoon to everyone, and we are the presenter today with a topic that was given to us, which is the speaking skills. Today, we will talk about the tips and activities that will surely help us to develop the speaking skills of our future learners.
Speaking skill are considered the most important part of learning a language. Speaking skill is the ability to speak confidently and fluently is something which children will develop during their time at school and something that will help them throughout their life. Speaking skill are defined as the skill which allow us to communicate effectively. They give us the ability to convey information verbally and non-verbally in a way that the listener can understand.
How to maximize young learners' speaking skills. A teacher's preparation. We began with the question, who is the most important person in the classroom? And answered, the student is the most important person because the university and the teacher are there to serve the students' need to learn, just as the hospital is there to treat the patients or the police to protect the security of the citizens. Ironically, however, institution can end up serving the purposes of those who run them, so an imbalance is created that downplays the rights of those to be served. Teachers should always remember this and try to look at their classes from the students' points of view. In short, we need to do what the student need and not make them do what we need.
Letter B, students' motivation. Encourage students to spend time speaking to you. Be mindful of how much time you are speaking versus your student. Keep tutor talk time to a minimum and increase the student's talk time. Focusing on speaking practice also offers an opportunity to build on cultural traditions of oral storytelling which many students may be familiar with. Encouraging pride in this tradition can be a useful tool in providing students with the confidence needed for preparing class presentations or other formal speaking activities. We need to motivate and encourage our students to talk more because, according to Rita Mae Brown, language is the roadmap of a culture. It tells you where its people came from and where they are going. So, it is our way on communicating with other people to understand each other. Therefore, we need to talk more and to communicate with others. Don't be afraid to talk because it represents your identity and boosts your confidence.
Strategies and approaches social conventions in speaking skills. Children will learn how to develop friendships, have conversations, give and receive information, share materials and ideas, and show respect and consideration as they interact with others. Through the interaction with others, such as to our friends, family, and all people surrounded us in the society, we could develop our communication skills, most especially our learners, on how to share thoughts and ideas and deliver messages through verbal. The following experiences will assist children to develop appropriate and effective social conventions. Number one is the conversation. So what is conversation? It is an act of exchanging ideas between two or more people. So here in conversation, for example, if the teacher and the learner is talking together, asking the teacher of the learner of the what would be the lesson of today. So that is an example of conversation. What else? Another example is that greeting the learner because of the arrival of the teacher. So what that is one of the example of conversation. So we have two types of conversation here. We have informal and structured. Informal conversation, it is a model social courtesies and conventions. For example, greetings, inquiries, turn talk taking, responding, and nonverbal communication. So here in informal, for example, is that saying good morning to your teachers, saying good afternoon to your teachers or to your learners. What else? Asking about something like asking where is the restroom, where is the book, Where is the eraser in the classroom? What else? About responding to the questions of the learners. If the learners asking if they could allow to take the restroom, then the teacher should respond to that. So that is what we call the informal conversation. So when we say structured conversation, it is involved children in purposefully conversation by introducing topics, displaying pictures, telling stories, or etc. So in short, it would be a formal conversation during the class discussion, wherein this conversation takes place purposefully. So merong purpose kung bakit mangyayari ang structured conversation. It's because of dissemination of information about the lessons, dissemination of assignments or activities, and also telling stories during the storytelling. If there is a lesson in the curriculum that is all about storytelling, then that is an example of a structured conversation. So for here are the other strategies and approaches in social conventions in speaking skills.
Number 2, partner work. This technique helps to improve academic performance in speaking. The technique can also increase students' motivation to learn English as well as their self-confidence and group cooperation. Also, provide opportunities for children to complete tasks together, like labeling, for example, own or jointly made constructions, pictures, classroom signs, puppet plays, brainstorming, and list making.
Partners. When a teacher uses talk partners in a lesson, the class is asked to debate the response to the question with a partner. When teachers rely solely on children raising their hands to answer questions, it is common to see the same few children raise their hands repeatedly. After the children have discussed something in pairs, the teacher can choose one pair to give what they have discussed without knowing to wait for them to raise their hands. This means that the quieter kids who might not typically speak up are encouraged to do so.
A role play is not only a pleasant and playful activity, but it is also an important part of children's learning. It's a social environment that encourages youngsters to practice speaking and listening skills, as well as reflect on and expand their understanding of a topic, while also igniting and strengthening creativity and imagination. Role plays can help students become more interested in the material being covered in class. It may also increase student involvement. In the classroom, students go from being passive recipients to active participants. Students' empathy can also be developed through role play. It enables individuals to see things from many viewpoints and understand other perspectives.
Next, minimal responses. Minimal responses are the short answers that the listener makes while the speaker is talking in a conversation. For instance, a student responding yes, yeah, okay, no, and many others while the teacher is discussing. Moreover, there are two different kinds of making minimal response. First, listener makes responses while the current speaker is talking. Second, listener makes responses after the current speaker finishes the talking.
Number 2, recognizing scripts. Some communication situations are associated with a predictable set of spoken exchanges, I script. Greetings, apologies, compliments, invitations, and other functions influenced by social and cultural norms frequently follow patterns or scripts. These scripts can help students in developing their speaking abilities by making them aware of the scripts for different situations, allowing them to predict what they will hear and what they will need to say in response.
Using language to talk about language. Language learners are often too embarrassed or shy to say anything when they do not understand another speaker or when they realize that a conversation partner has not understood them. In these cases, We can help students overcome this reticence by assuring them that misunderstanding and the need for clarification can occur in any type of interaction, whatever the participant's language skills levels. We, the teachers, can also give students strategies and phrases to use for clarification and comprehension check. Before we develop some activities with our students, we have to make emphasis on our students that the main aim of the activity is not just to speak the more, but to speak as much as possible and have a good pronunciation of the words. To help students enhance their macro skills, especially in speaking, before we decide to do activities intended to help students to develop their ability to speak English, we have to be aware that students often think that the ability to speak a language is the product of language learning. We know that speaking is a crucial part of the language learning process, so it is very important to teach students some important speaking strategies that they can use to help themselves expand their knowledge of the language and their confidence in using it.
So these are the following activities that will be a big help in improving the speaking skills of our learners. With these different activities, it will cater and enhance each learner's ability. First, we have What a Life. What a Life is an activity developed by a group and it also performed by a group. Next is Taboo. Taboo is a speaking game. Example of taboo is you'll give a word with the children and let them continue with a word that they want. Example is glass, then glassware. That's the example of taboo.
People. They fill out a survey and then use the results to swap papers and pretend to be the other person with the same likes and dislikes. And fashion. A fashion statement is anything unique that is worn to make a bold statement about one's fashion understanding or to bring attention to oneself. In the 1950s, girls who began wearing pencil skirts were making a bold fashion statement in their clothes, as it is deviated significantly from the recognized fashion trends.
Food flashcards. This activity is extremely beneficial because students can achieve excellent results simply by having simple images on hand. It is good activity for revising vocabulary or generating discussion. So flashcards are tools that are effective as a memory aid for the students and it helps to learn new information more quickly as well. And also it is beneficial because it improves the language skills. Apart from this, the benefits of a food flashcard can develop good and effective communication. In addition, food flashcards work well because they help you not only to memorize facts quickly, but to process and store the information over the long period of time. Picture dictation. This activity requires preparation and works well in large groups, particularly with young learners and teens. All your students need is a blank piece of paper, and all the teachers need is a little bit of imagination. So in picture dictation, the teacher describes a picture or sequence of pictures to students who draw what they hear. The aim is for close listening. The drawing should be quick and simple.
The number 7. True, false story. This speaking activity is excellent for practicing storytelling and learning interesting facts about the student in the class. This speaking activity is very effective for practicing telling stories and learning fascinating things about your students. Tell the students an interesting story about yourself and describe in detail what happened. At the end of story, give them an opportunity to ask you questions about this story. Finally, ask them to decide if they think the story is true or false. This should be the first point at which you indicate it may not be true. Of course, the story was untrue and now it's the student's turn to make up stories. Finding the murderer. This speaking activity allows students to take on roles and participate in a variety of ways in the activity performance. Explain to students they are going to prepare a play and perform it. split them in 2 or 3 groups. While one group performs, the other watches them. The audience has to guess who the murderer is. Tell the students they are free to invent a story about why she is dead and how. They can choose their own personalities and alibis and decide who will be the inspector, as he or she has to prepare a new question to ask the suspects. They work in groups and they decide who the murderer is amongst themselves. If you have a class of say 8 or 10, divide them into 2 groups so that they don't know what the other group is planning. This is important when they are going to perform, as the other group who's watching them has to guess who the murderer is just before the end. They can also ask additional questions and for clarification to the performers.
Brainstorming. Brainstorming uses in a class for them to discuss the previous lessons and to produce ideas and solve problems. In speaking, brainstorming helps students to come up with ideas for his or her speech and allow to quickly develop a huge number of ideas, usually in relation to a certain goal. Another one is it helps learners make contacts and share ideas to other learners. It encourages students to explore and expand their critical and lateral thinking abilities. Reporting. This speaking activity will help students to improve their speaking skills and help them understand the situations the teachers gave to them so that they can share to other learners what they understand. Reporting is important because you have information to share that's important to your audience.